Hi, in this guide, I will be explaining how to navigate the application as the super user for the actual application. After setting up your account, you're trying to log in, enter your credentials, as I have done right here, and I'll proceed to sign in. As you can see, sign in, and then you get displayed this tutorial video, which I'm doing currently anyways, and you can click on show me again later, or you can click on don't show me again to dismiss it forever. That's if you are now confident that you can navigate the platform as you wish. All right. This is the super user dashboard, and it gives an overview of all the activities across all regions and all branches that are under the API of the department. And you can see the metric cards here. We have total actual contributions, total registered employers, total claims paid, total claims beneficiaries, total OSH activities. And it is also worth to mention that this metric card and every chart here are only being displayed for approved record. Now, the background story is that the branch officer for every region, under each region, so to say, must have submitted their branch reports, their collated branch reports for the month. After doing this, the regional manager reviews this record for each activities, for HSC activities, for legal activities, for claims and compensation, for compliance, and for inspection. Now, once this has been reviewed by the regional manager, the admin or the HOD has the privilege to approve this record based on these activities for each department or module. Right here on the monthly performance trends, this shows the monthly performance trends for claims, inspection, and HSC activities for each month for the current year. And we have the claims distribution data. The claims distribution data, as you can see here, shows no data, no claims data available. And this is going to be a pie chart because there are pending reviewed claims related record that are yet to be approved. And you can see regional compliance performance. This shows every target against the actual contributions that was collected for every region under the headquarter. As you can see here, the chart is currently empty because records are yet to be approved for this purpose. Moving on next to this section, which is the user and role, one of the crucial parts of these actions as the super admin. The super admin gets to handle and manage every activities of each user from this screen. As you can see here, it shows the list of all the users, and you can see the username, you can see the email, you can see the role, and you can see their status, account status is active, and you can see the dates this was added, and you can perform actions like editing, or you can delete a user account from the system. This is an overview of all the roles and permissions. So we have HOD claims and compensation, we have admin, we have branch officer, we have HOD compliance, we have HOD HSC, we have HOD inspections, and we have legal officer as well as regional manager. All right, so I will be moving on next to creating a new user or adding a new user and assigning them a role. And I will call this person Samuel James. And I assume this user is going to be HOD for HSC, so I'll just use the random email HODHSC@gmail.com. I'll provide their phone number and assign them a role. Here we have all the roles: HOD claims and compensation, admin, branch officer, HOD compliance, HOD HSC, HOD inspections, legal officer, and regional manager. I would proceed to assign this person HOD HSC, and I will save this as HOD department, HSC department rather. Now, this crucial part here, you need to know what organizational level to select. To select organizational level definitely means at what level of operation is this user going to be operating. So what that means is the user is member of staff of the headquarters. If the user is a member of staff of the headquarters, what you want to do is select headquarters as the organizational level. If this user is going to be a member of a region, and the only case this applies is when you are trying to create a regional manager. When you try to create a regional manager, you select region and you get to select the specific region that you want to assign the regional manager to. Um, but because I'm doing for HOD, HSC, which is definitely going to be a department within the headquarters, you select headquarters, right? Now, if this user is going to be branch officer, you want to select the organizational level as branch, and you proceed to select the region, and then you proceed to select the branch where this user will be created. The branch officer will be assigned to this branch, Gaki, under the region, Abuja. All right. I just thought of explaining how to do that and assign user to different organizational level. And I'll be proceeding to add this user to the organizational level and assign the role of HOD of HSE. And I'll proceed to create this user account, HODHSC@gmail.com. Once I create this user account, this sends an invitation to the user and invites them to the platform, and there's going to be a guide on how to access the application from here. As you can see, HODHSC is now here on the list of users and roles. You can filter the rows by the you can filter the number of users or the records of users by the rows. You can filter by all rows. You can search for users by email. You can search for users by their name, Samuel James, and so on. Moving on next to permissions, you can manage user permissions and update, add, or unassign permissions from user based on the role or based on your jurisdiction as the super admin. As you can see here, I want to update the HSC officer's permission, and I would include that the HSC officer should be able to upload HSC reports. I also want the HSC officer to let me see, just to get any other information. As you can see here, you can see the list of permissions you can assign to this user, but with great power comes more responsibility. So you want to be very careful when you're assigning permissions to users. You also want to look through and see what permissions you want to assign to that user based on their role or based on the department that they belong to. Here is an overview of all the users' permission that you can assign to them, and all checked or pre-checked permissions shows that these are the current permissions currently assigned to this user. And you can see the permission name and you can see the description. Just tells you what the permission does, and you can go ahead and save changes. It updates the user permission. Initially this was showing 7 permissions, and now this shows 8 permissions, which means I have added one more permission to this user, Samuel James. All right, moving on next to compliance. The first module. Great. Moving on next to compliance, you can see the metrics: total actual contributions, contribution targets, performance rates, total employers covered, and total employees registered, total employers registered, and total employees covered. And you see the records for all the submitted and validated reports from branch, from region, and you can filter these records by region. You can filter the record by branch. You can filter the record by region. You can filter the record by branch. You can filter the record by record status or approval status. Record status just shows you the status of that record. So speaking of this approval status, by default, when the branch officer submits their collated reports for the month, by default, it gets saved on the system as pending reviewer from the regional manager. Once the regional manager have reviewed this record or report that was submitted by the branch officer, the regional manager can make modifications to the record if there is any case of discrepancy or any case of inaccuracy in data collection, and they can mark the record as reviewed. As a super admin, you can either do both. You can either mark record as reviewed, and you can also edit a record in case there is any discrepancy. You can also mark a record as reviewed, as approved, rather. Approve a record. Once you approve a record, it gets applied to the metric that is going to be shown or displayed across the dashboard. Now, this record has been approved. Now, this is going to have an effect on the metric, and if you noticed, this must have changed. All right, moving on next to just want to do a very quick approval, few approval on some of these. Mark as reviewed, mark as approved. Great. Do a few more. Mark as reviewed and mark as approved. Great. I want this to have an effect on the metrics I shared initially. All right. Initially, this chart was all empty, but now this is showing the regional compliance performance for all the region, and you can see this chart comparison for the total contribution targets against actual contributions that was done for the region Abuja. Now, moving on next to claims and compensation, I also want you to take note of these metric cards right here. They are getting updated in real time and they are being affected by only approved records. Moving on to claims and compensation, you can see on claims and compensation, we do not really have any approved records right now. All are in zeros, and I will do the same thing. All you just need to do is just look for the action column and look for this I action column to edit, save changes, mark as approved for this that has already been reviewed. You see, reviewed by this is the regional manager that reviewed this record, and this was approved by this admin. And right now, this is going to take effect on the metric. All right, great. Now, this has been updated on the metric, as you can see, and I will just approve a few more. But then let's go back to the dashboard to see, and this pie chart, sorry, this pie chart now loads, and this does claim distribution across different claims category. I'll proceed to look for a different type of claim. Correct. So they are all disability claims, but there are several types of claim categories, and the chart will show the distribution of that according to the categories. Moving on next to inspection. Inspection is pretty much the same thing. You just need to look for the actions column, look for the eye icon, and just click on approved after reviewing the record. Click on approved, and that's it. And then it will have an effect on the metrics. As you can see here, for all approved records, it now has an effect on the metrics. Now you can see comparison of debt established against debt recovered for all the approved records. We only have one approved record, and you can see the columns, the period, and every other information that you need to see. Moving on next to HSE, which is also similar. We already have some approved record right here. Um, that's why you can see this metric. You can filter record by status, you can filter by pending, you can filter by region, you can filter by branch, and yeah, apply filter. And what you see next is you get to see only all pending records according to whatever criteria you have set in the filter, just so it makes it easy for you to manage the record efficiently. You can mark it as reviewed and mark as reviewed. So you are focused on only pending records, mark as reviewed, and that's it. Then if you want to now approve reviewed records, you can as well change the record status and apply this so you can see reviewed records, then you can mark as approved. Right, so that's the filter functionality. Okay, very similar to legal operations or the legal activities. All approved record already affects this metric as well, and you can mark some of them as reviewed, mark as approved, and there you go. You can edit, but once you have approved, you can't make any edits again for compliance reasons. All right, moving on next, we go to the KPI analytics. The KPI analytics gives you an overview of all the activities across all aggregated um, computation that we have done for all approved records. As you can see, the metric card shows total claims, um, claims paid, total is pending inspections, average case duration in days, risk exposure, compliance rates, and you can see a line chart that shows the period of monthly KPI comparison. And this comparison is being done between claims, activities, compliance, inspections, and HSE. And this color code means these lines for each of these records, as you can see right here. And you can see the regional performance as well as the sector-wise claim distribution. Moving on next to valuation and forecasting. Valuation and forecasting also does forecasting of all the information based on approved records. You can see the projected growth within that period. You can toggle around to see within the different type of actuarial activities. Moving on next to risk analysis. You can see the risk analysis that is being done, the critical risk rates, high risk rates, medium risk, low risk, and risk mitigation rates. And you can see incident and recovery trend. And you can look at the regional risk breakdown, low risk for Abuja, and you can see the risk drill down for employer and sector. The entity name, yeah, Gakiye was saved as the entity name, assuming this is the name of the entity, and we have another entity called Seplat Energy, and this is the region they fall under, and this is the risk score that was done for this entity based on every report that was done in terms of their compliance, in terms of their inspection, debt recovered, and their claims and compensations activities for that specific entity. All right. Moving on next to the last module, which is the investment and treasury module. As you can see here, every metric and chart here is empty, but then this is only accessible to the super admin. So only the super admin is able to upload the investment reports. So I can download this template to fill in the details for investment reports, investment templates, and proceed to upload this um, investments. Okay, all right. I would upload this, the system would validate and populate the database with all the record that has been entered in the investment workbook. As you can see by default, all of these records shows pending, and the super admin reviews this, mark as reviewed and mark as approved, and then it will take effect on the charts. As you can see right now, the charts are now loading. Um, all these are for February. Okay, the entered record was for November period. Then you can do few more. Then the chart trend changes depending on the number of approved records. As you can see, these are the sort of like comparison with the public sector, private, public treasury, public non-treasury, informal economy, rental fees, and as well as an overview of the metric card, the private sector collection, public treasury funded, public non-treasury, informal economy, rental fees, and debt recovery. All right, that's pretty much everything for the super admin. Thank you for watching.